Hi guys, in today's video I want to show you how we can make the new atomic element, the Flexbox, which is a new element in version 4 of Elementor, how we can make this behave like a boxed width container, which is an element we're all familiar with by now hopefully. So the Flexbox is a new atomic element that comes with version 4 of Elementor, which is still in beta version. So I'm currently running version 3.30.0 beta on a testing site. So I'd recommend you only install this on test sites or dummy sites because it's not ready, it's not live ready yet. So it'd be a bit risky to install on a live site. So this video will go through basically how to make this Flexbox behave like a box width container, even though you can't set the content width to boxed in the general settings here. There's no boxed element, there's no boxed option. And in the style settings here, in layout, there's no boxed width option here, none in spacing. So what we need to do, what I'll show you how to do today, is add a class to make it sort of behave like a box width container. So the current container, it works by looking at the site settings. So I'm currently in site settings here, the layout settings, the box width container sets it to whatever you set in your content width here. So it sets the width of the container to whatever you set here. So for desktop, we've got 1120 pixel. For laptop, I've set 77, tablet 80, 82, 85, all the way down to mobile. You can see here I've set 90%. So that the container that these elements are in will only set the elements inside it maximum width to 1120 pixel because it'll box itself off. So how does that work in the actual code of Elementor? So this is where there's been big improvements in the code. So if we look here, we can see we've got our boxed width container, and if we open it up, we've got an inner container. And this inner container has margin on the left and right, which you can see is the orange boxes there. And that's because this is set to a defined width. But we've got a div here, a div here, a div here. It's divs galore at the moment with Elementor, and then the heading. So we've got 4 divs just to get our heading into a container. And it's the same with the paragraph. We've got a div, and then finally the paragraph. So there's a lot of bloat in this version, but thankfully they've addressed that with version 4, because now this here is the new atomic element, the Flexbox. We'll open it up, H2P. Straight away we can see our elements, and this is actually an accurate representation of what you can see here in the structure, because we've got our Flexbox, which has heading and paragraph. Going back to the code, we've got our div, our Flexbox, which has our heading and our paragraph. Whereas with the container element, it looks the same in the structure, but to enable it to work and for us to get our boxed width container, they've had to put a lot of sneaky divs in there. So that's not what we want. We don't want a lot of nested divs in our websites because it will affect our page speed, and we won't get good core vitals with all the excess divs going on in there. So if we look into the Flexbox now, we basically want to replicate these sides here, and I'm going to do that by creating a padding class for the Flexbox, and I'll call it boxed width. So that's how easy it is to create a class. You just simply type it in there, and we're now editing the settings for this class. So we'll start actually with the laptop, and we'll come back to desktop. So with the laptop, we know that the content width for a laptop is currently set to 77%, which means this orange box is 77% wide. So we need to make this blue box, the new Flexbox, 77% width. So to do that, we'll go into spacing, and we'll go into padding, and it's actually the right and left padding that we'll adjust here to make the full width of this Flexbox add up to 100% so that the inner width can be 77%. So 100% minus the 77% leaves us with 23%. And if we divide that by 2, it gives us 11.5% left either side. So if I type that in, 11.5%, 11.5%, you can now actually type your units, which is a much needed improvement for Elementor. So yeah, we've got 11.5% either side, and you can see it's aligned up with the container above. So now if we go to tablet landscape, what do we have here? We have 80%. So this one's a bit easier, just 10% either side. So 80%, 90%, 100%. Then we've got 82%, so this will be 9% on both sides. Oh, need to unlink them. Set them back. Yep, 9% either side. Then we've got mobile landscape, which is 85%. So that'd be 7.5% either side. Again, to make it add up to 100. And then finally, we've got mobile, which is just 5% either side to make it add up to 100%. So you can see straight away now, this is looking the same as this. So if I work my way through the sizes up until the desktop. So how do we get the desktop to behave the same in a Flexbox as a content width container? So this is where we need to do a little bit of maths. So what we'll need here is the pencil, because we're going to use a calculation. So the calculation is calc 100%, because it's 100% width of the container. And what we want to do is take away our content width, because we want to take away the center, which is 1120 pixels. And once we've taken away that center, it leaves us with both margins either side of a content width container, or in this case we're using padding. So it'll leave us with 2 of them. We only want 1. So if we divide this by 2 and close it off, we may need to add a space. Yep. Can you see now how this is lined up on that side? So if I copy this, now add that calculation into the left side as well, there we go, it lines up. So this calculation, it's only this should have to change. So if you used 1240 pixel as your width on desktop, it just stick 1240, 1280, anything that you use, you just need to swap that and it'll line up perfectly with a content width, a box width, sorry, container. So once we've done that, that is that class built. So now, whenever you add a Flexbox, we added a Flexbox here, and then added, let's add a heading. So we've now added a heading, and you can see it's up here, so it's not contained in a box width. If we just go back to the Flexbox, simply apply that style, we now know it's boxed. It's lined up perfectly with the ones above, and it's boxed. So that, applying this, is now as easy as being in your container and selecting boxed from a drop down. It's 2 clicks. We'll add a Flexbox, you click, and then you add your box width class. Simple as that. I nearly forgot to mention, which is quite important, the reason why we are setting up the padding and not just setting the widths of these Flexboxes. So the easiest way to show you that is, well, with an example. We'll add a Flexbox, and instead of setting up the padding, we'll just set the width for this. So the width 1120 here for desktop. We'll set the width of this in layout. Instead of using our calc formula, so in the Flexbox currently, for the box width, I've set a spacing calculation. So instead of doing that, we'll just set the width. So layout, is it size even? Close layout, size, width, 1120 pixels. So now that's 1120 pixel, yeah? So it's in line with these. But the difference is that makes the whole container 1120 pixel rather than the content within the container. So if we added content here, it would be in line with these. So if I added a heading into here, it is in line. Currently it's got 10 pixel padding, so I'll just remove all the padding. So yeah, it is in line, but if you wanted to set a background or anything like that, because we've set the width of the whole container, the background will only apply to this 1120 pixels wide. And obviously if we set the width for the rest of them is on 77, 80, 82, it would only apply it for those widths. So in here, background, let's add an image, background image. So if we set that, you can see it only applies to this width. So we'll now set a height so you can see it. So it only applies it, and you get left with this dead space. Whereas in this Flexbox with the padding classes, you can see it's extending to the end of the page, end of the screen. So if we wanted to set a background in here, we'll set the same background. We'll just use an overlay. There you go. You can see it extends. So this is what I mean by it behaves like a boxed width container, because that's how a box width container behaves as well. So if we go into the container and we wanted to set a background image, there it is behind it. Oh, just let it load. There, it's behind it. So you can still edit the container that fills the screen, but it's the content within it which is boxed off, which is why you can't just set a width of a Flexbox, because like this one here, we've just tried to set a width and you get this dead space. So I hope that clears that one up, and I'll see you in the next video.